Let's go ahead and add some smaller buildings. The first thing I want to do is get all of my large and medium buildings merged into a single point stream so that we can remove any points from inside of them before we start spawning new stuff. So you can see these two look different. The reason for that is the difference node is capable of performing this operation on a variety of different data types, so it doesn't really know what it is, and this is a wildcard. But if I pull off and I write to point, it'll go ahead and convert that data into point data. So it should look pretty similar on this side. And then we can add a merge points node. And then we're going to feed this into a difference node. Once again, we need to set this to binary. And we'll go and grab our processed landscape data points. And we can add a debug out here. And you'll notice that these points have the street data in them, which is actually kind of convenient. One of the things about the street stuff is we may want to make sure that we're not spawning any of these points on streets, but you run into an issue where you don't have as many large buildings because they get eliminated by streets. There's another thing that we're going to do probably in the next couple videos where we orient the large and medium buildings to be parallel to the streets that are next to them so that everything feels a little bit more consistent. And once we do that, we can think about whether or not we want to eliminate the street points from these buildings. But we definitely want to do this operation for these little guys because all of these points have the road data in them. We can treat each category of building independently. So let's go ahead and add an attribute filter here. Once again, we've got to convert it. And I'm just going to tap the A key over here to inspect this data and confirm, yes, we still have roads. So the target attribute here we're looking at is roads. And the operator is going to be, if it is, we can stick it with greater than. We'll use a constant threshold here. So basically, if it's close to 1, that's probably a road. So we'll just say 0.9. And we can plug the inside filter points in here, and we should see all of our road stuff, right? And then if we look at our outside of our filter, this should be everything else. You can see maybe 0.9 is too high of a threshold because we're missing all of this stuff here. So let's head back over and we'll just set this to something like maybe 0.5. There we go. That's better. So you can see those street patterns starting to show up. And if I were to increase our surface sampler to, we'll try 0.5. Yeah, there we go. It gets a lot clearer, right? Okay, so 0.5 is probably where a little closer to where we're going to want to end up. But you can see now that I've got more points, I'm spawning a lot more buildings. So these are, you sort of have to, tune it as you go. I'm going to drop it back down to 0.2 here in a moment. Cool. All right. And then we'll add a transform points node. And for our small buildings, once again, turn off uniform scale. The scale min for these is going to be 3 in X, Y, and Z. And the scale max will be 6 in X, Y, and Z. And then we're going to want to do a self prune here. And we'll take a look at where we land. All right. So this is clearly an awful lot of small buildings. So I'd like to introduce a new concept here, which is going to be something of a downtown area. So what I want to do is I'm going to decide that wherever the pivot of the blueprint is, currently sitting at 0, 0, 0, that's going to be my downtown area. And then I'm going to generate a radius value for my downtown, and any of the buildings that are within the downtown area are going to be scaled up a little bit larger. And then as we move away from the downtown area, we're going to have smaller and smaller buildings. So the downtown data that we're going to be generating can be applied to all of the points here. They're all going to need to know whether or not they're in the downtown area or not. So I'm going to insert it up here before we generate the processed landscape data reroute. So we're going to create another distance node. Spatial is fine. The input is going to be all of the points that we have so far, and the target is going to be the location of the blueprint, which we can get with a get actor data node. On the get actor data node, we want to set it to, let me make this a little bit larger, get single point in the mode. And if I inspect this, you'll see that the position is wherever we set it. It's going to match this value here, like so. And if we modify it, it'll update the blueprint. So that's going to be our target. We're going to grab our distance. 20,000 might be a little bit small. Let's just set it to 50,000. And we'll do center, and we're going to set the density. So now if I do a debug on this, what we can see is if the point here is within 50,000 units, does seem to be off a tiny bit. Sorry, that is the sky sphere. Let's grab the blueprint itself. And there we can see the location here makes sense. And that's going to be a reasonably sized downtown area. But I don't want it to be darker where we are approaching downtown. I want it to be brighter. So I'm just going to do a subtract here. And we actually want to subtract the density here from 1. So for my input source, let's go ahead and set this to density. So we go point and density. I'm going to create a constant. We'll set the value to 1. And we want to output back into the density for now. We should see the inverse behavior. And again, if I move my downtown to some other spot, we'll see that lighter area will adjust accordingly. And now let's go ahead and, rather than setting this to the density, we will create a new attribute here. And we'll just call it city center. So if we inspect this node by tapping the A key, and we scroll over here a little bit, we now have a city center value, and we can see there's some data in there. So that's looking great. Well, let's go ahead and plug this into our processed landscape data node. And in the next video, we'll go ahead and apply this new data as a filter to our buildings.